All right. Well, we're going to talk about keyword variations today. For this mainly applies to clients who have like a suppression issue. And I'm sure you get this all the time where a client is like, his name is Joe Smith, but he also goes by, Joey Smith, Joseph Smith, maybe Joseph R. Smith. Mm-hmm. So when someone comes to you like that and like have all these variations of their name, is each one of those variations like a different campaign, or how do you kind of handle that?
Usually you can do it in one campaign. Google's smart enough to know that Joe and Joseph are the same name. So if you were to publish a press release, you could do Joseph parentheses Joe Smith did XYZ. For the interview sites, which rank really well, you have to pick one or the other. But luckily, Google's smart enough to know that Joe and Joseph are the same. Problems run into if someone's name is Joe, but they also go by John. And it's like, hey, well, that's not even close to the same. It's rare, but sometimes people have nicknames that they want to target. In those cases, it would have to be two different campaigns because there's not much overlap.
And so when it's two different campaigns, it's basically double the money because you have to do the same thing twice, right?
Exactly. So to answer your question, most of the time, you can do it in one campaign. You can target variations of the name. You can put Junior, the third. You can put the town name throughout the text and the tagging. The circumstances arise when it's two campaigns, when it's very different names, or if you're targeting a client's name and then the business name, for example. So let's say John Smith is the CEO of a company and he wants to target both. That would definitely be two campaigns.
Right. Well, that makes sense. And then what if somebody has like, let's say his name is John Smith and that's all he goes by, but then he's got like, he's from Birmingham. So he's like, hey, I'm Googling John Smith Birmingham and the negative stuff is coming up. And then I'm Googling John Smith Birmingham AL for Alabama and the negative stuff comes up. And then I'm Googling John Smith Birmingham, Alabama, and the negative stuff comes up. And maybe he's a teacher. So he's like Googling John Smith Birmingham teacher. Like, How do you handle that?
That'll be one package still because Google's smart enough to know that AL and Alabama are the same. But you would mention the town name, the state, their teacher. You would mention those keywords throughout, and that would do the trick. A lot of clients, too, do have a very unique name. So you have to, in those circumstances, you should target their name. But when a client has a very common name, let's say John Smith, he's sharing it with so many people that his negative is probably on page 20. So that's not the real threat. The threat is looking at analytics to see how people are searching for him and where the threat could be. And that's how you determine the keyword list to target. A lot of clients will think that a certain keyword, maybe a town name, their employer, ex-employer, is the threat. And it's funny to see what analytics has to say about it. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're way off. And you always have to tell them, well, according to Google, which is how we should listen to, is this is your threat. This is how people are searching for you. So this is what we need to target. And usually they agree as a result. The keywords, ultimately we can target as many keywords as you want as long as we can just publish it in the third person, the word choice. So if they're a teacher, we just talk with their teacher, for example. It's that easy.
So imagine sometimes you have to have sort of maybe a hard conversation with a client who, thinks that maybe people are Googling all these different variations of their name, and you have to tell them, look, you're always going to be able to find stuff. I mean, you could type 10 words into Google to find, a bad article in the Detroit Free Press, but people aren't going to do that, right?
Exactly. And sometimes, we're very good at what we do, but sometimes we can't do certain things that they want us to do. For example, like John Smith, the rest, that's the keyword I want to target. It's like, that's just too specific. And the problem is, too, to create positive content, we need to slip the word arrest into there, which is like, how do you even do that creatively? But even so, if you could, it's just, you're not going to outrank a search term like that. But luckily, that's not how people search. It's not user behavior.
Yeah, and you usually wouldn't want to search like the negative stuff after your name anyway, right? Because then you run the risk of influencing autocomplete and making it appear as a suggestion that everyone can see.
Exactly. It has happened, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a real threat. And auto-suggest work isn't cheap. It's doable, but not cheap.
Yeah. Well, any kind of final advice for, clients who, kind of have all these keyword variations and maybe they go by a couple different names? Like, how do you kind of help them get focused?
Put yourself in your friends' shoes. Imagine how they would search for you. Run analytics, look at auto-suggest already. That's a good indication of where the threat could be.
Right. And this is, I imagine it's a pretty common thing, Matt, with, HR departments, like before they hire you, they're Googling you, or, if you're somebody considering doing a business deal with you, they might check you out. Or even if it's a dating situation, people are Googling your dates.
Yes. Yeah. It's, the key is you want to put good positive content forward to have that be found first. And the idea is if you have a very common name, the quicker someone can find positive content about you, the sooner their search result will be done. So if someone's going through pages and pages of John Smith and can't find the specific John Smith, that's where problems are more likely to arise because they're going to keep digging. So just try to be found easier with positive content. It's the best way to tackle it.
Awesome. Well, great. Thanks a lot for your time today.
All right, pleasure. Talk to you later.